Okay, Venice. How did Venice contribute to the Italian Renaissance? Well, we'll start with by looking at a map. Venice did really quite well. This is a map of the Venetian trading empire. It's in Italian. That's why you may not recognize. Well, we can recognize the words, but they look like they're spelled wrong. By the way, that's where the Roma tomato comes from. That's the word for Rome. It's Roma. But those yellow lines, they really highlight how well the Venetian sailing ships did in terms of promoting trade, being able to transport and carry goods all across the Mediterranean, down over here. Let's get the highlighter going. There's your Holy Land, okay? That's your Holy Land right there that I'm highlighting in yellow. So they were able to go there. That's where the Crusaders went, all the way from Rome, okay? There's your Ottoman Empire. It used to be the Byzantine Empire. And they even got through, there's Constantinople, which is modern-day Istanbul, okay? There's a really narrow passage to get there into the Black Sea here. So the Venetians, they just had a massive trading network. I guess that's what I want you to take away from this. Massive, huge, wide trading network. Okay, they were really good at the exchange of knowledge, ideas, and technology. All right, located between the Eastern Mediterranean and Western Europe. So where is Venice? Well, it's that red part up here, okay? Maybe I should just use green here. There you go. That's Venezia, all right? There's Venice. Controlled most of the parts, see the Adriatico, that's the Adriatic Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. By east, we're talking like this, whereas this would be Western Mediterranean. Trade items passed and were shipped through Venice. Venice was a port located on sea, and lots of stuff would go like north into Germany or into like Poland and France, right? Genoa also had that advantage, and people would argue Genoa had a bigger advantage in that case over Venice in terms of getting items to Europe. Nevertheless, Venice did pretty awesome. This is why they say between Florence and Venice, which one became the richer city? It's arguable. But they became very successful traders and business people. And they were relatively stable. Like even, the city-states fought amongst themselves, but I'm talking within itself, the Venetian people, the citizens of Venice, the city was pretty well run. It's not to say that it didn't have its trouble spots or disputes, but Venice was fairly stable. And when you get people to get along, that just means better business, right? When people are not fighting, they're generally making money. Okay, how did Venice contribute to the Italian Renaissance? Here's the social system in Venice. There's three basic classes. The aristocracy, the wealthy and noble. They held the most powerful positions and could vote for government. Okay, they could vote. Original citizens. So these are like the Venetians that like, hey, our families lived here in the city for hundreds of years. Yeah, they could hold public office, but they couldn't vote. Okay. And then you had the common people. Okay. These are sort of the upgrade over the serfs and the peasants. They had some rights as citizens. They might have earned a half decent living, but they were limited power and opportunities. Okay. They were limited, but basically three classes in Venice, and it was a republic. In other words, these wealthy and noblemen, there wasn't a king. They would sit together in a council and make decisions. And they would vote. They could vote who was going to be in this council. All right. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. The government of Venice. Okay. So speaking of which, it was a republic. People were chosen to represent the views. Okay. Now, by chosen, it's not a modern democracy. Not everybody could vote. And they were intended to represent the views of the masses. But when I say sort of, the rich and the powerful, they voted on who could get in and govern Venice, but they had their own interests at heart most of the time, okay? So it was a republic, meaning, people had representation, okay? Instead of the, dictator, despot, king type of person. The head of government was called the Doge. The Doge was the council. It was voted in by the rich, influential families. So let's not pretend it was a, completely equal or equitable democracy. only the rich people got to vote themselves or the other rich people in. So families would have alliances, right? It's almost a little bit like that game Among Us. The Scuole of Venice, that's kind of like a social institution, like a food bank or a charity. And it was really based on the Catholic religion, okay? People, especially people with money, they had to do something with that money. And so, yeah, you could build new buildings and support artists and support libraries. But part of Venice or Venetian culture was to have these social institution that had, it was charity. They wanted to help out the poorest of poor. And Venice became known for that social institution. They collected money, they prayed, they held masses, and they tried to help the lowest of the low classes to feel better about themselves and feel better about their lives. Okay, Venice became an important city-state for many reasons. As I was saying, a stable government. It was the most successful in sea trade. Venice, just incredible sailors, incredible shipping, strong naval base. Okay, naval meaning ships, right? Upper class supported the arts. Okay, it became the European book trade, the center of European book trade. You wanted a book, you went to Venice. Venice had incredible libraries, and more than a few of those libraries are still standing today. Of course, they've been renovated and upgraded for their engineering, but Venice is just astonishing for books. Okay, it had a famous university that promoted the study of science, medicine, and law. Over here we have a map. This is about the timeline of this map. Okay, remember, Venice is the water city, right? Venice is the water city. That's where you see the gondolas. And this is a map that was produced 400 or 500 years ago. Yeah, about 500 years ago.